So thank you so much for sitting down with me today, Mr. Deaver. I know you're busy.
Delighted to be here.
So you've written 32 novels,
Mm-hmm.
is that right now? 3 collections of short stories, and a nonfiction law book.
Yes, that's right.
That's a lot of writing. When and how did you get started?
Well, when I was about 11 years old, I was a nerd, but I was a proud nerd. You know, nowadays a nerd means you live in Silicon Valley and you have a patent in a semiconductor product or a computer and you're worth billions of dollars. I was a nerd when the word meant something. And so I would spend my time in places just like this, in the library. And I read everything I could get my hands on. And I started writing at that young age, and I decided this is fun, making up stories. So I started writing adventure action novels at that young age. Now they were, I guess we call them short stories, but nonetheless, I knew that I at least had an interest in this, if not a talent. I knew I wanted to lead a writer's life, and so I started writing fiction at a very young age.
And so did you study writing then in college?
I did. I have a journalism undergraduate degree from the University of Missouri, so I'm a reporter like you. I don't practice anymore, but and then I have a law degree. Now, I never really wanted to practice law. I wanted to get a job with the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal covering legal issues. And for a specialty like that, it really helps to have a degree in the subject. So I went to law school, but I did rather well in law school and decided I'd give that a try. But you know, all the while I was an attorney, all the while I was a journalist, I was writing my stories, these adventure stories. The first ones were absolutely terrible, but that didn't stop me, and I kept at it. And so 25 years ago, I quit practicing law to write fiction full time.
And a lot of these stories have been adapted for film.
Mm-hmm.
The Bone Collector,
Yes, yes.
A Maiden's Grave, and The Devil's Teardrop are movies now.
That's correct, yes.
So how is that experience for you?
Sure. I'm one of these authors who, I'm going to illustrate to you right now my involvement in having a movie made of my book, okay? And you and your viewers are going to have to use your imagination here. So I go to the post box and I get an envelope, and I rip it open, and it's a check made out to me, and I turn it over and I endorse it and I give it to the bank. And that's my involvement. I take the check from the film company. That's the only thing I do with regard to the movies made of my books, because my job is writing fiction. My job is not making movies. That's a whole different set of skills. So I am delighted when a movie gets made from one of my books. I've optioned just about everything. Doesn't mean that will get made into a film, but I've optioned or sold outright almost everything I've written. And when it happens, I'm delighted because that gets me more readers. But the fact is, I don't really care that much.
Well, The Bone Collector might be the most well-known
Yes,
of all
indeed.
those films. And it's in the same series as your newest novel, The Skin Collector.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And both novels feature the same character. So how did you come up with this character?
Sure, and I'll explain to you and your viewers who are not familiar the Lincoln Rhyme character, who is the hero of The Bone Collector, the hero of The Skin Collector, and the 9 books featuring him in between. About 15 years ago, I was looking for a new topic to write a book about. And I think I'd just been to see, I'm not going to single out Bruce Willis or Mel Gibson, but it was some action-adventure film, which was fun. You know, who doesn't like those shoot-'em-up kind of movies? But I remember at the end of the film, the villain was pounding the you-know-what out of our hero. And was there any doubt in anybody's mind that before the credits rolled, our hero would find this reserve of strength or remember a gun he had hidden and leap up and blow the bad guy away? Well, those are fun. We enjoy eating popcorn and laughing about the movie while we see it. But I thought, I want to do something different. I want to create a hero who is not able to pull out that hidden gun, not able to karate kick the villain. And so I thought, well, who in crime fiction could that be? And I thought back to Sherlock Holmes, who, you know, maybe he got out into the field occasionally, but mostly he just sat in his flat in London and outthought the villain. Well, that's what I want to do. And so I created Lincoln Rhyme, who is a Sherlock Holmes kind of character. The books are set in the present day, of course. He's a forensic scientist, but he's paralyzed from the neck down. He's someone who really has to outthink the villain. He has no other options there. He can't pull out a gun. He can't walk into a bar and exchange quips with the bartender or the bad guy. He has to engage in a mental chess match. Now, when I wrote The Bone Collector, I knew the book would be a series. Well, I knew The Bone Collector would be the start of a series, but I had no idea it would become as popular as it has.
Yeah.
The books are sold in over 100 countries, translated into 25 languages. They sell millions and millions of copies around the world. He's an unlikely hero, but people do seem to enjoy him.
Yeah. Well, in your newest novel, The Skin Collector, you feature maybe the most devious killer that you've done so far.
Thank you.
So can you tell me a little bit about him?
Sure. When I know you talk to many authors, and your viewers may be familiar with by going to book events or watching interviews with authors on TV. Uniformly, we writers in the crime genre will tell you that the villains are our favorite characters to create. We get so much angst out writing about that. All our frustrations come out in our killers.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to viciously slaughter somebody sometimes, right? Well, we can't do that in real life, but we can through our villains. The villain in The Skin Collector is a fellow named Billy Haven, which sounds like a rather pleasant name, but there's nothing pleasant about Billy at all. He's a very talented tattoo artist who, for reasons explained in the book, slowly, I ladled the information out at a quite leisurely pace, and I don't want to give much away, but for reasons that are ultimately revealed in the book, Billy Haven takes his victims from underground locations, basements. Now, I know in Florida you don't have a lot of basements in your houses, but the book is set in New York City, so there's people go down to their basement to do their laundry. They're never seen from again until the police find them with a tattoo on their body with a cryptic message. And Billy is taunting the police to figure out what he's about. What does this message mean? Well, they find another victim. Oh, you combine the two messages tattooed on their bodies. There has to be a clue. There's a code of some kind. And that's the story. Lincoln and Amelia, Amelia Sachs, played by Angelina Jolie in the movie, race through the book nonstop to try to figure out what Billy is up to and stop him before he kills again.
Now, you seem like kind of a mild-mannered guy.
Yeah.
So how do you come up with a plot like that?
Yeah, really, Rachel. I'm just simply sick and twisted. That's as simple as it is.
Is that the answer?
No, my job is to write for my fans.
Yeah.
I want a book to be an engaging emotional experience. I mean, totally engaging. I don't want somebody to finish one of my books. Well, frankly, I don't want to finish any book and say, well, that was interesting, or I learned a few things. I want to finish a book and say, oh my gosh, I survived that. My palms are sweating, my stomach is all in knots because I have a roller coaster from the first page to the last. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about what is going to make an engaging story on all different levels. In The Skin Collector, of course, we have the crime involved. We need to know if Billy is going to be stopped from doing these terrible things. Does Billy have an accomplice? Well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't want to give anything away, but will the police track down the accomplice? But in addition to that, are there other issues that I can write about in a crime book that are subplots? For instance, Lincoln, being the quadriplegic, has wrestled from time to time with issues of assisted suicide because people who are severely disabled legitimately consider whether they want to live a life that way. Yeah. There are political issues in the book that are other subplots that get people turning the pages. And that I can't go into because that's a big twist that's revealed at the end of the book. Mm-hmm. But you see, on all different levels, I want the story to race forward. And that's what I try to do. And I keep in mind, will this subject make a compelling story for my readers? And I throw out 10 times more ideas than I actually use because I don't think they will be that sick and twisted, compelling idea that propels the reader from page to page.
Yeah. Well, Billy aside, you've come up with so many other interesting characters. Is there a favorite that comes to mind when you think about it?
Well, it's interesting. I have two favorites. My favorite book of the ones I've written is Garden of Beasts. That's a historical thriller set in Berlin in 1936, and which features such well-known nefarious villains as Adolf Hitler and Goebbels and Goering and a number of other people from the Nazi era. But my hero from that book, if you can call him a hero, is Paul Schumann, an American of German ancestry who is a hitman for the mafia. And he's recruited to go to Germany and kill one of Hitler's aides who is helping Hitler rearm Germany in 1936. So the book is a blend of fact and fiction. My other favorite character is named Gabriella, and she is from my book published just before The Skin Collector called The October List. The October List goes backwards. So we open the book, page 1 is chapter 36, and as we read, we go back in time until we come to the third chapter, second chapter, first chapter at the very end of the book, in which we learn that everything I've been telling you is completely turned on its head. And I developed that idea because I wanted to write a surprise beginning. All of my books have surprise endings. The Skin Collector has a huge twist followed by yet another twist. It has 3 surprise endings. I wanted to see if I could write a book that had multiple surprise beginnings, which it does. And the book is done very well. It's a bit challenging, but Gabriella is my hero in that book, so she's my other favorite character.
Well, I know your sister is also an author,
She
is
is
that
indeed,
right?
yes.
So writing must run in the family.
It does. Our parents had a very interesting rule when we were growing up. We were allowed to read any book we could get our hands on, but there were some movies we were not allowed to see. Now, this was a little ironic because I grew up in the Midwest in the 1950s, and back then, this was the days before we had the G, the PG, the R-rated cinema. But films were all pretty PG at most. Everything was quite tame. So, ironically, there were movies I couldn't see, but who cared because there was no violence, no adult relationships on camera. People kind of went off scene for that sort of stuff, so why not watch them? But that was our parents' rule. But the end result was that we could read anything we wanted to. Henry Miller we could read. You know, there were rather explicit scenes in that. James Bond I could read. But what that taught me was that there was something good about books and about storytelling. So Julie, my sister, who writes more serious books than I do, have our parents to thank for that.
Yeah. Well, we are sitting here in the library.
Indeed.
And most authors that I've met are big readers. Is there a genre that you like most to read yourself?
I read everything. I have to say the one genre I have not gotten into quite so much is the, I'd call it fantasy, like the Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. Having said that, though, I was a huge Lord of the Rings fan when I was growing up. But lately, I know there's so much wonderful writing. George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones series, which I have not read. Of course, the Harry Potter series, which I do have. If you ever read about the author who lives up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, who is crushed to death when his bedside book table collapses on him with all the volumes I intend to read but haven't gotten around to it, that will be I.
Well, you know, I read somewhere also that you were a folk singer.
I was, yes.
Has that ever made its way into your writing at all?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Rachel, because 3 years ago I wrote a book called XO, as in Hugs and Kisses, what we sign our emails with. And it's about a stalked country western singer, a Taylor Swift kind of individual, who is the subject of a very, well, we're not quite sure whether he's completely evil or just a fan who loves her work. But I decided, since that's set in the country western world, I'll write an album of country western songs to accompany the book, which I did, and that's available now on iTunes, Spotify. In fact, for free, if your viewers would like to, you can go to YouTube. Just type in Deaver, that's Deaver, XO, and Your Shadow. That was one of the songs, and you'll see the music video we did. Now, I respect my readers too much to have sung on the album. We hired professionals from Nashville to do it, so it was a fun project. But that did come back. Yes, my long ago and not very successful folk singing days did come back.
And what about now, current projects? Are you working on anything now?
I am, yes. We have the Lincoln Rhyme novel, The Skin Collector. Also out from Grand Central, my wonderful publisher, is Trouble in Mind, my 3rd short story collection. That came out about a month ago. I have an anthology. I wasn't going to mention this, but it just occurred to me, an anthology called Ice Cold that I edited with Raymond Benson, and they are short stories we solicited about the Cold War era. When we came up with this project a year ago, the editors said, well, Jeff, the Cold War, nobody's going to be interested in that anymore. So if Vladimir Putin is listening to your broadcast now, I say thank you, Vladimir. You have brought us untold publicity. I'm writing my new Catherine Dance book for next year, as yet untitled, and outlining a Lincoln Rhyme book for the year after that.
Great. And if people want to find out more about you, are you online? Do you have a website?
Yes, readers can go to jeffreydeaver.com, and I'm on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sitting down
Rachel,
with me today.
a real pleasure.
I so appreciate it.
Take care now.
Yeah.